Hello again and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please leave a like and subscribe. It's a free way that you can help me out. Today we will be continuing the coverage of the Danielle and Michael Redlick case. In part 1, we finished on the 10th of January, when the couple went to bed separately when Michael was drunk, and Danielle arrived home after she got texts from Sawyer to say that Michael had passed out. Today we will be continuing at the 11th of January 2019. On the morning of 11 January, Michael got up and noticed that Danielle's car was in the driveway. He found her in the loft bedroom. He was dressed and ready to go to work, and told her that he wasn't done with her and left. Later that morning, their cleaners came over to clean the house, and Danielle went off to run some errands. During the day, she received sarcastic texts from Michael saying how she should enjoy spending time with her new boyfriend, and she understood that meant that he was still not ready to have a conversation about anything. Danielle picked Jaden up from school early as they had a pep rally, and they arrived back home around 2 that afternoon. When she got home, the cleaners were still there, and she saw that Michael was sitting on the living room sofa waiting for her. He told her that she better have a good excuse or lie for where she had been, and didn't even care that Jaden heard what he said. Sawyer arrived home from school soon after. Michael made it clear that he was still angry at her, and Danielle was afraid of the consequences of that, and she decided to again rather leave the house, and left to pick up their dog from the groomer. When she arrived back home, Michael was not home, and Jaden had also left because she was spending the night with her friend. Sawyer had a flag football game that evening, and she started getting all his things ready to go. Michael came back home while Danielle was in the shower, and he came into the bathroom telling her that he was recording her so he could have one last good look at her, and told her that she better not go to the game, otherwise he would tell everyone what a whore she was. Michael started following Danielle around the house, trying to get a rise out of her, and eventually, just before he had to leave with Sawyer, he grabbed her phone and went outside to get into the car with it. She says she was so desperate to get her phone back that she went back into the house, grabbed eggs, and started throwing it at his car after he got in. Michael was of course upset by this and got out of the car coming at her, just as Sawyer walked out of the house. So Michael turned around, got back into his car, and left with Sawyer to his game. A while later, while they were at the game, Danielle got a text from Michael saying that she could come to the game, which of course she wanted to do, so she got ready and she left. They kept their distance from each other, and people noticed that they were acting quiet and different than the way they usually would. Sawyer had a pre-planned sleepover with his friend, which meant that Danielle and Michael would be home alone that night. Danielle arrived home first and was hoping that they would finally be able to have a discussion without their children around. She waited for Michael to come back, and when he did, he immediately went to the fridge to pull out his bottle of vodka. He poured himself a glass, just staring at Danielle. Then he asked her whether she was afraid to be alone with him that night, to which she responded that yes, in fact she was, and she thought that maybe they should go back to living separately again. He just kept staring at her, and she told him that he looked crazy. She wanted to get away from the tension and told him that she was going to get something to eat, and asked him whether he wanted something as well. He responded by saying that while she was going out, that he was also going out to see what kind of woman he could pick up. They both left at the same time, and she thought that he was going to follow her as she went to McDonald's, but he drove off in a different direction. She got a takeaway, and she also stopped at the CVS for a bottle of wine, and when she got home, Michael had still not been back. She sat down to eat, and Michael arrived about 5 minutes later, immediately grabbing her phone, and he walked away from her with it, probably wanting to check whether she texted Caesar while she was out. She said she could immediately see that he was tipsy, which meant that he must have been drinking while he was out. As he was walking away, he stopped. He turned around and came towards her again. She says he grabbed her burger out of her hand, took a bite of it, and spat it in her face. When he did that, she decided to grab the bag, throw it on to the kitchen counter, and told him that perhaps she would go out with Caesar. As she turned to throw the bag on the center island, he came up behind her and grabbed her. She tried to turn around but tripped up on her feet and fell to the ground, and she felt something hit her in the back of the head.
And I had thrown the bags up here. At this point, I'm here on my knees in between the center island and the kitchen sink area.
So you're in this area between the islands and the counter?
Yes.
Okay, and you've gone down to your knees?
Yes.
Based on him hitting you?
Grabbing me, and I tripped up and went on my knees. Then he hit me.
What happens next?
I try and get up, and
Were you able to?
he's right on top of me, so no, not all the way.
How were you positioned then at that point?
I was on my knees, so as I was coming up, he grabbed me by the collar, and I felt our heads collide. And at that point, I grabbed the center island, and I reach up to pull myself up to face him this way. And that's when he takes his right hand, so he grabs me here and slams me down onto the center island counter.
So he's grabbed your hair?
Grab me, yes.
Was your hair up like it is today, or was it down at that
Down.
point? So he's grabbed your hair and has slammed it onto the island here?
Yes.
What's going through your mind at this point?
Well, I'm scared. I'm thinking I'm under attack. He slams me down on the counter, and I'm pinned sort of this way, and he takes his hand and he's smashing my head. And so I'm just pinned up against the counter like this, and he's straddling my body here and has me pinned. And so my arm's here, and he's got his hand on my head, and he's holding it down.
Is your head actually touching the counter, or is it like you are right now?
I barely, yes, somewhat. He's pushing it as much as he can, but it's awkward.
So is the side of your head making contact with the flat surface?
Yes.
Okay. What's he doing with his other hand?
So he's standing above me here, this way, and he cocks his fist back. I can see him, and he's acting like he's going to punch me in the face. And instead, he comes down and he grinds his fist into my face, and then puts his hands over both his hands over my hand and my nose, and he's pressing as hard as he can, smashing my nose into my face.
What do you do?
At that point,
Physically, what do you do?
I can't really do anything. He's got me pinned and I can't move, and I'm trying to wiggle out.
Are you able to?
No,
Is there any conversation going on at this point?
I can't speak. No,
Are you able to breathe?
no. I tried to take like 3 or 4 breaths and I couldn't even get a breath.
So what do you do? What are you doing?
All I can do, so I've got a free arm here, and the drawer in front of me is the only thing I can do, and I know that there's items in there.
So how close is he to you at this point? Is he with his arms pressing down, or is his body pressed up against you?
Both.
And can you explain just kind of how we are right there, how you were positioned in?
So yes, I guess I'm about here, and he's basically standing above me, and he's holding me down. And like I said, he's kind of straddling me with his legs, so he's got me pinned there. I don't know if that comes out clearly enough.
Are you trying to talk? Are you trying to say anything?
Yes, yes.
And are you able at all to do that?
No.
When you realize that you're not able to breathe, what's in your mind at that point?
That he snapped and that he's probably going to kill me.
Why do you believe that?
Well, because I couldn't breathe and I was starting to freak out at that point, and he wasn't stopping.
Did anything make you believe that this time was different than the times before?
Yes.
How so? Why?
Just the rage that he was in, and again, I felt like he was kind of past the point of no return, like he had built up this, and that perhaps he wasn't going to stop.
What was it that made you think he wasn't going to stop?
The fact that he was holding me there that long, and just the prior 2 days. The threats.
Do you know how long you were held in that position?
I don't really. I'll have it seem kind of fast, but long enough that I couldn't breathe.
So what do you do when you're trapped in that position, unable to breathe, with him over you?
So I used my free arm to push open the drawer ahead of me.
How so? So how are you positioned at that point?
Still pinned up against the island. And
so you're leaning in with your left shoulder in this demonstration. Is it your left shoulder,
Yes.
the left side of your body that's up against the island?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you're pressed up against, you're reaching with your hand. What do you find?
The drawer on the end.
Is this the top or the bottom drawer on the end?
Top.
So this small square drawer?
Yes.
What's in that drawer?
Ladles, knives.
What do you find in that drawer?
A knife.
What's Michael doing at this point? Is he still holding you down?
He's holding me down.
Are you still trapped?
Yes.
You find the knife. You're able to open the drawer?
Yes.
You're able to grab the knife?
I pulled it out. Yes.
How does it continue from there?
Pulled the knife out, and I don't know if he saw it, but he released my head, so I'm able to move.
Okay. How do you position? So you said that you're able to move a little bit. What position do you go into?
Slightly more to the left, turning toward him.
Does he back away from you?
No.
Okay. Go
He
ahead.
says, "What, are you going to stab me?" And I take the knife and I position it and face it toward him.
What does he do at that point?
He immediately just goes for my chin and pushes me back, and I stab him at that point.
How are you positioned at the point of stabbing him?
Basically on the back of the island, and pinned by him.
At that point, are you able to get out?
After I stabbed him, yes.
Prior to doing that, prior to stabbing him with the knife, are you able to remove yourself?
No.
Are you able to wiggle free?
No.
Are you able to get out without using a weapon?
No, I was trying.
Are you able to talk to him?
No.
Did it seem like seeing the knife warded him off or scared him off away from you?
No.
Did it seem like it increased his agitation towards you?
Well, it increased it, but it didn't stop him.
At the time you have the knife and you stab him with it, what are you trying to do? What is your goal here in your mind?
To get away from him.
Why? If you don't do that, what is your belief that will happen?
That he might smother me to death. Or whatever he was going to do to me.
After she stabbed him once in the shoulder area, he backed away and she took the opportunity and ran away from him towards the master bathroom, and she let go of the knife somewhere along the way. She said it was instinct for her to automatically run to the bathroom when they were having a physical altercation. She remembered that the bathroom door was broken, so she went into the enclosed toilet again and locked herself in there. She stated that she was scared for her life. She knew that he would have been hurt from his wound, but thought that it would only make him madder. And she was worried that he would break down the toilet closet door as well. She heard his voice come closer and could hear that he was calling her name, but anything else that he had said she couldn't make out. And shortly after it sounded like he was walking away. After a while she didn't hear him anymore, and she wondered whether he left or was waiting for her to come out, and decided to stay in there a little longer. She says it must have been around 15 to 20 minutes of sitting in the toilet closet before she worked up the nerve to come out. And when she came out, she was shocked when she saw blood on the floor, at the bathroom door and on the bedroom on the floor. She was startled as it was quite a lot of blood. She knew that Michael was injured, but she didn't think that he could have lost that much blood. So she followed the blood toward the living room, and there, on the living room floor, she saw Michael, sprawled out on his back, not moving. She called out his name, and he didn't respond.
I'm saying his name, and he's not answering, so I go down on my knees and I touch his face, and there's no response. And
Did you see him move at all?
no, not at all.
Even if you touch him, is there any reaction?
None.
So what do you do when you touch his face and you don't see a reaction?
So I lean in closer, and I put my ear and my hands on his chest to see if I can hear or see if he's breathing. And it doesn't seem that that's the case.
So what do you do next?
Well, my heart dropped at that point, and I start wondering what the heck, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing the blood, and I'm starting to glance around. I'm glancing around for my phone, and I don't know where my phone is, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm trying to figure it out. And at that point, I was thinking, oh my gosh, did he die?
She said that she started looking for her phone, wanting to call 911, but that she couldn't find it, because remember that he grabbed it from her before the whole physical altercation began. She couldn't understand what was happening and why he was bleeding so much. So she lifted up his shirt to have a look at the wound, and as she pushed on his chest to check it up close, she could see that a lot of blood came out. She said that she wondered whether the wound killed him, or whether perhaps he had a heart attack due to all the adrenaline from the fight combined with the wound. She did a few mouth-to-mouth breaths, hoping that she could resuscitate him, but she had no idea what she was doing. And she started looking for her phone again. She did find it after a while, camouflaged on the couch on top of a black jacket.
Find my phone, and so I go to look again, and I do find my phone. It's on the couch, on the white couch on the end, and it's kind of camouflaged on the black jacket on the couch.
What do you do when you find it?
I grab my phone, and I just, in my mind, I'm calling 911. However, I'm looking at him, and I just start thinking, I start crying, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, can I help him? And I start...
Try to help him?
Yes.
How so?
I start breathing into his mouth, like trying to resuscitate him. And I'm doing that, and I'm getting nothing.
Does
I don't know what I'm doing either.
Do you hear anything or see anything, any movement, any reaction, anything at all from him?
No, I don't. Other than what I hear myself doing, I don't hear anything.
So what happens after that?
So at that point, I turned to my phone, and I did dial 911, and I think my thoughts were racing at that point. I don't know how coherent they were, and I guess I dialed 911 twice, and so it didn't connect. And at that point, I just went into like a full-blown shock.
How so? What's in your mind when you try to call and it does not go through?
I think it's just sinking in that he's dead, and I start to just kind of panic, and there's blood everywhere, and I went and grabbed some towels out of the linen closet in the master bath, and I just grabbed a handful of them, and I walked out toward him, and I think some dropped on the way, and I got down next to him again, and I think I was on my phone, still nervously, and I think I just made a series of really bad decisions at that point.
You called 911 again that night?
I did not.
However, after finding her phone, she did not phone 911. She said that she freaked out and started looking at texts from her kids, worrying about them. Looking at texts from Caesar, and texts between her and Michael, and she even deleted some of those, as well as all of those between her and Caesar. She said that she was thinking about how her kids would react and that she just made a bunch of mistakes after that.
So after you've done that with the deletions, you're thinking about your kids, you're scared, what else do you do?
I think I was just looking around at that point. I was crying. I was hugging him, and I just started wiping up some of the blood. There was just a lot of blood, and I think I went into the kitchen area, and there was some blood there, and I think I did grab the mop at that point, and I started to clean up the kitchen area a little bit, and I said, "What am I doing?" And I just stopped.
Objection, Eric.
So you're cleaning up. At some point, do you stop cleaning?
Yes,
Why?
because I didn't want to keep messing with things.
What was the point of cleaning up the blood?
I don't know. I think I was just in shock and nervously doing things.
Did you do anything else that night?
No, I cried next to my husband. I fell asleep sitting up next to him. At one point I got up and went into the brown chair.
Did you call anyone or text anyone
No.
while you're in the home that night?
Danielle woke up the next morning around 7, looking around at the horror scene in front of her. And she didn't know what she should do. She started worrying about her kids more and more and what all of this would mean to them. And she didn't call 911 yet. She got on her phone again, looking at texts and other messages aimlessly, just scrolling through them. This was when she thought that maybe it was better if she also died and went to be with Michael. And she started up looking ways on how to cut your wrists on her phone. She said that she then took a sharper knife from the wall and did just that.
At some point, do you ever call anyone?
The police.
Or make contact with anybody?
Well, 911.
Why do you go from wanting to slit your wrist to calling 911? What changes there?
You know, I heard something say, "Not like this, Danielle, not like this. Your kids do need you. They didn't need to be without both parents."
Finally, at 9:28 a.m. on 12 January 2019, more than 11 hours after the initial argument started, Danielle finally calls 911, but only after she had cut herself.
911, may please call your medical? I don't know. I think my husband's deceased. There's been a tragedy at my home. What's the address up there? 1231 Temple Drive, Winter Park. Okay, yeah, Winter Park jurisdiction. Let me get their fire department on the line. Hold on one moment. Police fire medical. This is someone with a medical transfer for 1231 Temple Drive in Winter Park. Alrighty, 1231 Temple Drive, right? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Alright. Okay, thank you. What's going on at 1231 Temple Drive? I believe my husband is deceased. Okay. And why do you believe he's deceased? Because he's been, he's stiff and he didn't want it. He might have a heart attack. I don't know. Okay. Did you just find him? No, actually. It happened last night. It happened last night? Correct. Okay. How old is your husband? He's 65. So did you find him this morning? Because I know you said that you believed it happened last night. Did you see him last night? Was he okay, or was... He was not okay last night. We had altercation, and he stabbed himself, and I ran into the bathroom, and then when I came out, I tried to help him, and I saw he was lying in blood. And then I tried to help him, and I couldn't. Correct, yes. And then I tried to help him, and I woke up with sitting up next to him, and I've been trying to figure out what to do. Right. I got you. I'm going to get you some help, hon. So you all had an altercation last night, correct? Yeah. All right. What's your name? Danielle. Are there any weapons on scene now? A knife. A knife? Mm-hmm. Danielle. Okay, so Danielle, let me ask you this. So did he stab himself last night and he passed last night and you just didn't know what to do? Correct, I believe so, yes. Okay. Were you all drinking? He was. He was? Yes, he was. And altercation was the night before too, but I left the house and took my children with me because he was drinking them too. Mm-hmm. Were your kids there last night during this altercation? No, they were not. They were not here, and they're not here now. I know you first said that you thought he had a heart attack. So do you think it was a heart attack, or do you think it was due to the stabbing that he passed away? Probably the stabbing triggered it, I guess. I don't know. It's a shoulder wound. You say it's a shoulder wound? Right. I'm just getting all this information.
So, as you can hear, she didn't tell the truth about what happened. At first, she says he might have had a heart attack, and then she also said that he stabbed himself. Police arrived on scene at 10:05 a.m. and found Danielle waiting for them in front of the garage wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and black leggings. The fire department and paramedics, who arrived only shortly before the police, informed them that Danielle had cut herself and they needed to take her to the hospital. They also said that the house had been secured, and after a search warrant was obtained, the police entered the house, where they found Michael lying on the floor in the living room in a T position. Michael was not wearing a shirt, but had on jeans, a belt, and socks. His pants were saturated with blood. They later emptied his jeans pockets and found his phone and wallet inside, which means that Michael did not take out his phone to try and phone 911 or anyone else after he was injured. There was also a pile of towels beside his head and by his feet that had blood on them, and they could notice that there were swiping circular motions in the blood by his body, which clearly showed that someone had tried to clean it up. The house also smelled like some sort of cleaning detergent, like bleach with an undertone of lavender, as soon as she opened the door. Between the living room and the kitchen, there was a little entryway where they found the large serrated kitchen knife with blood on it on the floor. By the stairs that went up to the loft bedroom, they found more blood-stained towels, a mop, and a mop bucket with pinkish water in it, and between the towels they also found Michael's shirt that was also saturated with blood. It was clear that he was wearing it when he was stabbed, as it had a slash in it that clearly matched where his wound was. They also found 3 other knives in the kitchen sink with blood on them. Danielle stated that the silver one was the one that she had used to cut herself with, and the one on the floor was the one that Michael stabbed himself with. Remember, she was still going with the story at that point. There was more blood found on the kitchen counter, as well as on the floor. They saw that there was also a trail of blood leading from where Michael was lying to the master bedroom and ensuite. That also showed clear traces of swiping patterns and cleanup. In the bedroom, they also found a pair of black and white plaid women's pants, which was soaked in blood and folded up in the bathroom area. It was clear from the swiping swirl patterns in the blood, the bloody towels, the smell of cleaning product, as well as the mop and bloody water, that the scene was clearly tampered with, and that someone had tried to clean it up. Danielle had told the paramedics that she had cut her wrists at about 30 or 45 minutes before she called them, and they noted that her wounds had no longer been bleeding when they arrived. She had also told them that Michael had punched her several times, although they could see no visible bruises apart from the one on her elbow. The doctor that later examined Danielle when she was brought to the hospital also saw no visible bruises apart from the cuts on her wrists and the one bruise on her elbow. Danielle was admitted to a mental health facility for a check after her attempt of taking her own life. Meanwhile, the police were investigating back at the scene and putting things together and figuring out that Danielle's story of her husband stabbing himself did not quite make sense. The police pulled phone records of Danielle and found that texts had been deleted that were exchanged between her and Michael on the day that he was killed. They could unfortunately not recover the content of those texts. They also tried their best to get into Michael's phone, which was a Google Pixel 2, and even after sending it to tech specialists in the Secret Service, they still could not recover anything from his phone. Information recovered from Danielle's phone also showed that while her and Michael had been arguing the previous day, she had accessed the Meet Mindful app and accessed conversations that she had with other men, but did not send any texts or messages or receive any texts or messages, as well as on the morning of the 12th January before phoning 911. It also showed that she was using her phone on and off through the night of 11 January until about 12:27 a.m. on the 12th of January. It showed that the phone was plugged into the wall to charge at around that time and was taken off the charger on 12th January at 7 a.m. On 7:22 a.m., it showed that Danielle logged onto the Meet Mindful app and was scrolling through conversations that she had with other men. On the 18th of January, the police obtained a search warrant to go back to the Redlick home to get DNA and saliva from Danielle. She was very aware that meant that they were investigating her now, and she was still insistent that she did not kill her husband.
It is further directed that any evidence or property seized under this warrant shall be brought before a court and in proper jurisdiction to be disposed of.
I did not murder my husband. Please, I don't understand this jargon.
Upon request, ordered and sealed this 16th day of January 2019, signed by Judge Gail A. Adams. Okay. What don't you understand?
You're saying the saliva when there was resuscitation done, that's second-degree murder?
No, I'm collecting saliva samples from you, as is in this warrant, to be tested.
Because of the resuscitation?
Because of other evidence that we have collected.
I don't understand.
Several witnesses were interviewed in the aftermath of Michael's death, including friends, family, and the couple's children. No one had known that Michael had died suspiciously by the time that they were interviewed. one of Sawyer's friend's moms, said that Danielle could turn into someone else completely when she was drinking, and that she had seen it with her own eyes. A friend of Michael was also interviewed, and he said that he had recently asked him how their relationship had been going. And Michael made a joke saying that everything would be fine as long as he hid the steak knives. Mutual friends of Michael and Danielle told investigators that their marriage had been rocky for quite some time, with arguments between the pair often turning into ugly physical fights. The couple's 2 children were also interviewed on the 12th of January. They told the police that their parents had both drank heavily and described their marriage as toxic. They also said that verbal arguments would quickly deteriorate into scuffles, with the pair slapping and scratching at each other, and that Danielle was usually the aggressor, and that Michael had been very sarcastic. I will add the links to their interviews in description down below if you would like to listen to them directly. The autopsy showed that Michael had a little cut to his upper lip, faint bruises on the left side of his chest close to the stab wound, which was close to his armpit. It cut a major artery called the subclavian artery that receives oxygenated blood from the top portion of the largest artery in the body that carries blood away from the heart. And it also pierced Michael's lung. It was stated by the coroner that he would have bled out in about 5 to 6 minutes. The coroner also found contusions and bruises to his left arm and wrist that looked like scratches. No evidence of a heart attack was found. The coroner also found no bruising on his chest that would be present if it was done. It was found from the wound position that Michael did not inflict the wound to himself, as Danielle had initially told the police. On the 12th of January, they had also taken a blood sample from Danielle at the hospital, and even though she had maintained that she had not been drinking, and it was only Michael that had been drinking, it showed that she did in fact have alcohol in her system. One of her conditions of probation was that she was not allowed to consume any alcohol. They also found several empty wine bottles in the recycling bin at the Redlick home on the morning of the 12th of January. With all the evidence and everything they found that didn't tie up to the initial story that Danielle told him, the police felt that they had enough to arrest Danielle for being responsible for the death of her husband, but initially that is not what she was arrested for. On the 23rd of January 2019, Danielle was arrested for violating her probation due to the fact that they found alcohol in her blood sample. She however made bond and was released from jail and placed on GPS monitoring. On the 6th of February, Danielle was however arrested for the second-degree murder of Michael Redlick, as well as tampering with evidence. Danielle pled not guilty to the charges. Danielle applied for bond, however, it was denied and she remained in jail.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you please state your name for the record?
Danielle Redlick.
You're here in 2019 CF 1846AO. You've been charged with second-degree murder with a dangerous weapon. And tampering with evidence. I do find probable cause for there's an arrest warrant, so probable cause is already found, ma'am. And I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. State this is a life felony. Second degree murder is punishable by life, and then with a weapon it's enhanced to a life felony.
I thought it was set as a PBL, Your Honor.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
enhanced
Okay.
to a life felony
Okay.
when there's a weapon.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, we believe that the defendant should be held at no bond based on proof evident presumption grades. While looking at the four corners of the 10-page affidavit by It looks like Detective War, I guess that's how you say her last name, Your Honor, on the defendant called 911 on this Saturday, January 12th, claiming that there was a tragedy at her home, that there had been an altercation that took place the night before. When police were able to get a search warrant and arrive, they found the victim stabbed in a pool of blood, his arm stretched in a T position. Based on an autopsy conducted by the medical examiner the next day, the cause of death was a stab wound to the chest area. The medical examiner says that the victim would have bled out within 5 to 6 minutes. During the investigation of the law enforcement officer, this defendant erased multiple text messages between the victim and herself. Also, while looking at internet searches, this victim had been searching dating websites during the time. There was also bleach found, and this defendant attempted to clean up blood that was pooled by the victim's body that night. While speaking to other witnesses, I believe it's 3 witnesses listed in the police report, they stated that the victim had been victimized by this defendant multiple times, that they had seen bruises on his arms and a black eye in the weeks leading up to his untimely death. Based on this, we believe the defendant is a danger to the community and should be held at no bond based on proof, evident, presumption, great.
Mr. Frederick?
Your Honor, in regards to the current case we have here, Ms. Redlick is being charged with the charge of second-degree murder. After reviewing the 10-page affidavit and looking at the 4 corners of the affidavit, it appears that there were no material witnesses within the affidavit. All the evidence at this point is circumstantial. It's also alleged that during this incident, Ms. Redlick had to use self-defense when the victim grabbed her and held her down. For these reasons, we would ask the court not to find that proof is evident or presumption great, a standard that is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Based on the 4 corners of the affidavit, I do find proof evident, presumption great. They were the only 2 individuals in the home, and based on everything that I've read, that's what I'm finding. And so, ma'am, I'm going to hold you at no bond on count 1, and you'll have a $15,000 bond on count 2. You're to consume no alcohol or drugs, and you're to possess no weapons or firearms. Are there any other conditions?
I know that there were children. I'm not sure if all the children are minor in this. Your Honor, we'd ask for no contact, no unsupervised contact with their minor children, no contact with the defendant, with the victim's family, except for obviously the children involved, and then no contact with any minors.
Okay, no contact with any minors, Ms. Redlick, no contact with your children unless it's supervised, and no contact with the victim's family members, okay?
In February of 2020, the state's attorney's office offered Danielle a deal. She needed to plead guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter with a deadly weapon, and if she did, she would get a sentence of 10.5 years in prison. And she would also be sentenced to 5 years for the tampering with evidence charge, which would have been served at the same time. She, however, rejected the state's plea deal during a court trial, and she was now set to face a jury trial that was set to begin in May 2020, and if she was found guilty, she faced life in prison. But we all know what happened in March of 2020, which meant that the trial was delayed. So that'll be it for part 2 of the case. In part 3, we will be dealing with Danielle's trial, the verdict, and sentencing. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, stay safe out there. Bye.